Hello. As promised, I am returning to the New Orleans. Now, the last time I did a New Orleans commentary was a couple of weeks ago. Then I had a stock New Orleans, I had just received it, and I had favorable matchmaking, meaning I was against T6, T7, T8. So I decided to make an updated one as I promised. And in this case, I have the fully upgraded ship. I managed to get my 15th captain point. I'm just about to hit the Baltimore, so that's why I basically got it right at the end of the New Orleans lifetime. And in this case, the matchmaking absolutely hates me. Like, straight up hates me. Like, look at this shit. I am pretty much... I'm one of the three T8s on my team, and the other two are battleships. So I'm the only T8 cruiser on my entire team, and we're up against Gorforce, Yamato, tons of battleships, Des Moines, Hindenburg, Shimokazes, Fletchers. Like, this is the worst case scenario matchmaking pretty much. And there's not even a carrier, so it could be useful as shooting down planes. So I figured this would make a good counterpoint to the last New Orleans commentary I made, where I was the top dog, but I had a stock ship. This time I am the worst off, but I have the captain upgrade, the 15 point, since this is pretty much probably the last game I'll play before I'll be upgrading to the Baltimore. And I have the captain perk, and I have a fully upgraded ship. Now my consumable choice still remains the same, defensive AA, to make yourself a force against the carriers, because the US cruiser line has very good AA, so actually making use of it is pretty fantastic. And of course, radar. There's absolutely no point to be using spotting plane when the radar on the US cruisers is so fantastic. It lacks range, of course, but on the other hand, it has longer duration. And of course, I push up. First of all, I use the terrain. That's something you should be doing in every cruiser, not just the New Orleans. But I use the terrain to close the distance with A, and there's this nice little nook and cranny here I can tuck myself into. And the goal here is, of course, to support my DDs. You have great concealment on the pretty much most of the US cruisers, and well, after Pensacola. Note, after Pensacola. The New Orleans gets really good at 9.5 kilometers with the captain perk. You have extremely good concealment. Even without it, you're at what, 10.6 or something, so it's not like it's a disaster either way. So I push up as close as I can. I don't want to push into the cap. I mean, getting the cap XP would of course be fantastic, but against T8 matchmaking, that's a good way to get deleted very quickly. Even T8 battleships can citadel you through the nose, so pushing up there when I know the enemy has T10 battleships and Des Moines and Hindenburgs and all this stuff is pretty suicidal. And of course, since I don't have Hydra either, and I just spotted a Shimakaze, I don't know what other DDs could potentially be here. So just very risky. I play it safe, and that's something you kind of want to be doing in New Orleans in general. You are the quintessential support cruiser. The reload is pretty much too long to be some sort of DPS beast in this thing, but you are a very strong support cruiser. You have the radar and you have the defensive AA. These are two great things for supporting the team in general. And of course, thanks to your great concealment, you can sneak up fairly close and catch people off guard. Like this Mogami probably wasn't expecting that much damage from that close. I didn't do much, but it's this constant harassment. Something worth noting is, of course, that the New Orleans has faster shell speed than both the Baltimore and the Des Moines. The Baltimore kind of gets you used to the shell speed for the Des Moines, but the Baltimore on the other hand doesn't have that good of a reload, so it's very awkward to play in general, although I personally kind of enjoyed it. But the New Orleans actually has quite good shell speed, and the shells have a pretty good impact, and of course you get the USN AP, which has fairly good penetration from a lot of angles that the other cruisers don't have. So we managed to secure it. I push up a bit further again. You notice how safe I'm playing this, and that's kind of something you want to be doing. A lot of the time, people have a hard time balancing supporting, like aggressively supporting, and being over-aggressive. And in this case, I'm aggressively supporting in the point that I am very close to the cap, and I can help my team secure the cap, but I am not overextending to the point where I am easily targeted and easily focused down. Now, another huge advantage, of course, of getting the 15-point captain perk is that when you get spotted, you generally can pop your radar very soon after. if you get spotted without firing, that is, because your concealment is 9.5 and your radar is 9. So there's only this 500-meter buffer, so if you're sailing straight towards someone and you get spotted, and a few seconds later you pop radar, you're pretty likely to actually spot the DD, because even if they see you coming and they start turning around, by the time they have fully completed that 180-degree turn, your radar will probably pick them up, because you close the distance so quickly. Now you notice I'm being shot by a lot of targets, so I slow down, I angle, I slow down, I'm not in a hurry anyway, I make sure I keep myself angled against both of them, I turn my rudder left and right, and I just stop firing. This is too much. First of all, Mogami firepower is quite good. Second of all, there's a Hindenburg, very scary, and there's a goddamn North Carolina. So I slow down, I stop shooting, I'm just gonna let myself get undetected again. I can't really be torped, it's hard for them to citadel me at this angle, so I'd rather tank the few shells that are coming straight at me with my armor than panic turn left or right. Yeah, I popped radar here because I was still detected even though my concealment disappeared, so that lets me know that there's probably a DD close by. So I'm popping radar to help my team. And both of these Shimikazes get spotted by this radar, and both of them obviously get focused. I have a lot of angry battleships behind me that don't really appreciate these walls of skill heading towards them. So this case, I push up a bit further. Notice that I'm still keeping myself angled, and that's actually one of the great things about the USN turret placement after the Pensacola. You can keep yourself very well angled, while at the same time bringing your full broadside to bear, or well, your full armament in this case, because the turret placement and usually the turret angle is very, very beneficial, and your armor is actually quite good as well. Of course, it still hasn't been buffed. The New Orleans is scheduled to get some nice buffs to the armor, but when those actually arrive is a matter of question. No one really knows. I mean, they want to implement them, but they don't seem to be in that much of a hurry to actually hotfix it or anything, so it will probably come along with some scheduled upcoming release. So people who haven't quite reached the New Orleans yet will possibly get the benefit of that updated armor. But those that have already reached the New Orleans, well, there's not really much point putting it off until that patch arrives, because once again, it's wargaming, you really don't know when that thing will be arriving, so planning on it might just end up putting the ship on hold for an infinite amount of time. And once again, once the so-called armor update arrives, there's no guarantees that it will make such a huge impact. I mean, the last few armor changes to various ships, I cannot honestly say that they have made that much of a difference, like a noticeable really difference. I mean, it's nice that they have arrived, but I don't value them too highly. Now, thanks to the smoke, of course, I push up again, keep myself angled. I'm not in a hurry. You notice that most of the time my speed is quite slow. I want to use the smoke to my advantage. I'm in no hurry to push out of this smoke, because why would I be? I have all these battleships that are pushing up on my side, and once again, you are a support cruiser, you're not the YOLO guy. I'm with my team, I'm close enough to my team that I can easily focus fire and do significant damage to these DDs, as you see, but I am at no point the guy furthest in the front, just YOLOing in and getting myself killed. And that's something you really need to keep in mind. I mean, if you're facing T8s, T7s, T6s, you can play significantly more aggressive, because you have the upper hand by default by having better armor and such than the lower tier guys. But if you're the bottom guy like I am here, okay, that sounded strangely kinky. Anyway, if you're the guy that is the bottom tier, then of course you're gonna have a hard time. So just play it safe. You can, first of all, you get significant amount of personal XP when you face up against higher tier. That's something people often underestimate when they complain about matchmaking, like, oh no, I'm against higher tiers, this sucks so much, this is terrible. But what they don't realize is when they shoot these higher tier guys, they get a ton of XP, because it scales based on the tier difference. On the other side, a T10 guy deleting a T8 guy isn't gonna get nearly as much XP as he would if he deleted another T10. So this is something that, even though it's of course not fair, I mean that's not enough to offset the huge advantage a higher tier gives you, it still does bring more balance to it, so to say, and it means that you can still have a very, very large impact on the game, and you can come out with a nice chunk of XP and money, even though matchmaking just straight up hates you. Now the Yamato, oh shit, is aiming at me. I make sure to keep myself angled. Like I'm not expecting to bounce his shells, but I am hoping to simply dodge as many of them as possible. Yeah, looks like he gave up on me because I stayed angled. Usually, battleships aren't that keen at shooting a perfectly angled cruiser at long range, simply because there's the RNG dispersion of battleships in general, and they really have to have some really good RNG for all those shells to land at range. So that's why if you make yourself a small target, unless the battleship really has some sort of vendetta against you, it's unlikely that you will be the guy focused, especially if there are other guys giving these fat nice broadsides nearby. Of course, now that my team is pushing in, and you see there's quite a long distance between me and this Iowa, now I have no issues just opening fire and fighting him, because I know that if he shoots, I can just turn and probably dodge the shells, because there's such a long distance between us. If this was closer, of course, I wouldn't be nearly as arrogant in pushing in like this, and of course there was the smoke left by the Shimakaze, which I once again utilize to my advantage, put the smoke between me and Iowa to hopefully like give me line of sight cover. You see he's aiming at me, so I'm angling, I'm turning left, right, trying to keep this island between me and him, just making myself hard to hit. There comes this volley. Well, he didn't really do much damage because I dodged most of it. And that's kind of what you want to be doing if you have this kind of situation. But this is where things start getting a bit problematic. I kind of want to push up to the island, but you also have to keep an eye on the minimap. Situational awareness. You see that those guys on D are starting to get a bit antsy over us capping, and they have turned around and they are starting to push back against this thing. And now I'm giving broadside, and in New Orleans, even though it's quite tanky when you're angled, if you give broadside, you suddenly turn extremely squishy. You have quite a sizable citadel, and if you're giving any sort of broadside, well, you're not going to live long. So once again, I angle away, I turn away. I try to keep my speed slow so I can stay in the cap. But honestly, with the amount of pressure they're putting on me, it's better to just speed up and just go fuck the cap. We need to stay alive here. Just too many people focusing me now, and I'm not going to be greedy enough to try and park in the cap. So just going to basically speed out of here and let myself get back into cover. Now you notice I shot, but I didn't get detected, so I'm probably pretty free to push back into this cap and secure it now. You also notice that on the minimap you can see that A is being capped, so it's most likely, considering we have a Moskva base, it's unlikely that's anything else than a DD that has snuck by. And considering the New Orleans is extremely good at actually dealing with DDs, you have fairly good maneuverability, fairly slim profile, and of course you have radar, and you have these almost railgunish guns. As I said, you have faster shell velocity than both the Des Moines and the Baltimore, so you're actually quite good at dealing with DDs. So that's why at this point I turn around. I'm gonna get the camp XP, of course, from this camp, and then I'm gonna turn to A and see if I can defend it, because this game is actually very, very close at this point. It's 7 versus 6. But they have 3 DDs alive and we only have 1, and domination DDs are superbly important. So that's why I turn around and see if I can just put some hurting on this. Pop the radar, of course, since I was detected, and I was automatically assuming that any sort of Fletcher that had run past there would obviously keep pushing up, or well, any sort of DD that had run past. And of course the Fletcher had done that very thing. Sometimes you want to put yourself in the boots of the Fletcher or of the enemy DD to kind of guesstimate what they are going to do, and in this case my guess turned out to be fairly accurate, so I managed to catch this guy off guard with my radar. His engine is broken as well, and I keep pushing him. He's detected because I think he shot at me, and now I got a fire as well, increasing his detection, so he panic smokes. That's not really an issue for me. I'm just going to push right at him, because once again, against DDs you are fairly confident. So I'm just going to push straight towards him. Now the thing that does worry me is of course the Gross Kurfürst that is pushing in from the south. So I need to keep in mind when I pick a fight with this Fletcher, I'm going to have to be dodging a lot more than just torpedoes. I'm going to have to dodging shells as well. Now briefly detected, so that means the Fletcher is moving around this smoke. There he is. Once again, by preventing this cap, I'm buying a lot of time for my team. And of course, dealing with a DD is a huge chunk of XP and something you excel at. Now my plan here, hoping, is to get into that smoke to just survive until the end of the game. Nice, I got him killed. But see, this is where another problem shows itself. You notice that they're still capping, even though the Kurfürst isn't in cap. That means there's two DDs. There's a second DD here. So I'm very tempted to turn into the smoke, but I don't. First of all, there's the shells and there's the torpedoes. So I have to kind of angle towards him both because of the shells and the torpedoes. To put it quite simply, I'm in a really shitty position. And worst case is, of course, he's got secondaries, and this is where bad luck strikes. This guy uses widespread torpedoes, and he managed to nail me right in the face with one. Like, I am pretty flabbergasted at this point because just terrible luck. I'm pretty upset, but, well, bad luck happens. Anyway, I did enough though to secure us the win at this point. It was pretty much impossible for them to come back from that point. And as you can see, well, first of all, there's the bonus XP from the day win, but still, even looking at the team score, you can see just how much XP I got compared to all the T10s. Like, I was completely outmatched in tiers, but I still managed to top the scoreboard by a significant margin. And that's one of the bonuses I mentioned, that even if you are the low tier, if you have a big impact on the game, you can get some really juicy rewards, even if you end up dying. So overall, even if you end up outmatched in the New Orleans, you can still have a pretty big impact, simply thanks to the potency of the radar. Now, regarding the modules and such, they're pretty much the same, except for a small change that has happened. Well, if you want the full build, just look at my previous commentary. But the one thing that I have changed is actually I've changed into AA guns mod 2 instead of the accuracy on your main guns. Now the reason for this is mostly because I got the 15-point captain skill, because that reduced my detectability range by air to 5.9, and that's a significant difference because with this mod you get a 5-kilometer AA range. So what this means, especially in ranked, was that if you get spotted by a plane, you can usually just move 1 kilometer closer and you can shoot down their spotting planes that are doing the spotting. And shooting down spotting planes or fighter planes that are circling around is a pretty big deal in ranked. And there's also that you can often catch carriers off guard, because when they're flying their planes around, they rarely react quickly enough to pull back your planes before pretty much they have already been within your range, because they only have 900 meters to react on, and planes are fairly fast, and especially if you're sailing towards them as well. You can see the difference between using a 15-point captain and not having one. You got 6.7 air detectability, which is a pretty significant difference. So once you get the 15-point captain, suddenly using that increased AA range becomes significantly stronger. Not just for denying vision from the enemy, especially in ranked, but also because of the amount of times I've been able to catch carriers completely off guard. And of course my captain build is the same. I'll probably save up for vigilance at this point to get my basic build going that I love on high tier cruisers. Anyway, that was my New Orleans second commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed it.